Hey, this is Derek. Today I'm going to review Body of Work by Pam Slim. This is a really interesting book. I'm kind of looking for solutions on how to do creative work. So specifically how to be more creative and more productive, find the meaningful work that you are meant to do. And I've actually had this book for a while and I didn't really dive into it until recently. I've also met Pam a few times and she's famous for Escape from Cubicle Nation, but because I've never really had a cubicle to escape from, that kind of like the quit your job kind of stuff didn't really resonate with me. This one hit me really hard right now, especially because I'm kind of in transition between the services that I used to offer people and what else I can offer in the future. So I want to quickly go through a few of the really important things that I got out of this book that I think will really help you also. The first one was just her description of the creative process. So she has a 5-step kind of checklist when you're creating work that matters. I think this is really important. I think the easiest way, I work with authors, book marketing, and a lot of people, focus on the marketing or the visibility, but the really important stuff is doing the right work, doing work that's going to matter to other people, and you can do that by making it culturally relevant, as long as you know who your audience is and what they actually want. So this 5-step process is what, why, who, why, how, when. So what you actually want to create, what you're passionate about, what you desire to create, like what excites you. This is probably your idea. And I would caution here that, and I'll comment more on this later, it's not just about following your passion or doing what you want, because number 2 is who. Who are you creating this for? And 3 is why. Why does this need to be created? Why are people going to care? Why is this something that people need or want? If you don't figure out the who and the why of your creative project, you're going to have a really hard time selling it or promoting it or getting anybody else to even care about it. Like when you try to talk to your creative project and try to get people excited about it, if there's no hook, if you're not communicating the value of your project, nobody else is going to get it. Especially like if you're an author and you're trying to get a publisher or an agent, it's not their job to find the value of your work. You may have a really good book, a really well-written book, but nobody's going to read it unless you can communicate the value in a concise way that resonates with them and gets them to want more and to ask you, oh, well, that's really interesting. What else? What next? Where can I get a copy? If you can't get them, if you can't incite that desire and make them care about what you're working on, you're going to have a big problem. So I really love this 5-step process, starting with what, who, and why. Who is it for? Why is anyone going to care? Why does this need to be done at all? And then also how. And this one really gets really interesting because there's this myth of creative productivity which is really just not true. It's the romantic ideology of retiring into the cave and doing the work all by yourself without asking the market. And there's a lot of books that say this is how you do it. This is how you do creative work. The problem is if you're doing it that way, if you're not looking at anything else because you don't want to be influenced, you're not considering what else has been successful or what's been done in the past or what other people have been responding to. On the one hand, that means you're going to have to reinvent the wheel and spend decades getting better at your craft without any clear indication of where you're trying to go or what you're trying to develop. You're not going to have any training wheels or any structure to let you do the work easily, which is going to lead to massive doubt and conflict, and you're going to be experimenting. You might have fun with the experimentation, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to finish anything that's cohesive enough that other people can also enjoy it. So the how is how you're going to structure this project. And the way to do that is to steal or copy. If you've read Steal Like an Artist, if you've read, recently I read some of Ryan Holiday's works or some of Jeff Goins' work, but basically the idea that art doesn't happen in a vacuum. And there's a lot of creative scientific studies. I've also been reading National Geographic and Time magazine have new articles out, new whole magazines out just about creativity and what it actually means to be creative. And what they all say is no matter what you're trying to do, you are either consciously or subconsciously drawing on your past experiences, drawing on the other influences. If you look at any great creative work that seems to have come out of nowhere, actually it's always dependent on the stuff that the creative person has had access to. Generally, it's a whole bunch of research, and then you take all that information and your personal life experiences and your personal audience and what you're trying to communicate, and you blend it all together in a new, fresh, exciting way that's never been done before. But it depends on all that stuff that came before. So finding a structure that works, or developing your own structure for how you're going to do this thing, how you're going to complete this thing, and how you know that this thing is been completed. And this is all before you've actually made anything. This what, who, why, how, and when, this is just in the planning stages. And it's really important to do this planning stuff before you invest a lot of time in the creative work. So it's important to get that structure and to know what you're aiming to accomplish. And then finally, the when. And this was a really important one for me. When is about setting deadlines. When does this creative work have to be done? This is something I don't always do, and it's been a big problem for me because I'm self-employed. I only have to do my creative work now. I don't have to have deadlines. There's no boss telling me, especially if you're self-publishing, you don't have like a publishing contract where your first draft is due. If you don't have anyone asking you for the manuscript, it could take a year, it could take 5 or 10 years. You just don't need to get it done, and that's a big problem because if you want to get better at things, you need to be more productive and producing more things more quickly. So that's really important. I think that's a really simple and straightforward framework for deciding any kind of creative work that you should do before you start the creative process. So moving on to actually doing the work, Pam Slim has another 4-step process in this book, which I think is really good. It starts with enjoy the adventure of your craft. So that's kind of like passion, but it's assuming you've already done that planning, that 5-step planning, so you already kind of know who your audience is and why they need this thing you're making. But then enjoy the adventure of your craft. Enjoy it. Make sure that it's pleasurable for you, because it's not necessarily, I've heard the argument that you need passion because your readers will be able to feel the passion. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do think if it's not enjoyable, you're probably going to procrastinate. You're probably going to put it off. So you have to find a way to make the work enjoyable to get the work done. Develop a mastery mindset, which means get as good as possible. Try to aim for not only developing high-quality products, but being able to put out, like the reason to publish quickly or put out a lot of different variations quickly and to practice publicly and to do the work and just try to be prolific with what you're finishing is not to be perfect or to create a perfect thing, but to build up the experience and the skill set, which comes from not perfection, but doing the thing over and over again, repetition. So enjoy the adventure of your craft, develop mastery mindset, and then scope test, which just means have a target. Know who your audience is, know what they want, try to develop a product, make it simple and short, put up a crappy landing page, just try to communicate the benefits in a way to see if anybody will actually want to buy your product, and then see if you can get it out in front of people to the extent that you get some conversion, some people actually buy it, then you validated the idea, then you can go bigger. So after you scope test, and you keep trying to do this thing, eventually you'll get to the point where, okay, I know who my audience is, I know what they want, what I'm good at making. Now I can start to focus on flexing your creative muscles, which is this 4th step. This is also where I am. I'm kind of, I've built my platform, and this is also something that this book really helped me with because it kind of set out this kind of framework where it said, like, if you are feeling all of these things, if you're at the point in your career where basically you've already built a platform, but you're struggling with, going to the next step, or you're resisting that kind of thing. All the things that she mentioned were things that really held true for me. So it kind of gave me the motivation to know, okay, I'm at this step, I'm ready to go big, but how do I do that? This is some of the stuff I'm learning from this book. And specifically, she mentions one of her clients that was not scaling up. Like, she wasn't building new products, or she wasn't telling new people, she wasn't scaling, she wasn't trying to go to the next level. That's something I've personally been resisting. So she has this 20x rule, which means you need to plant 20 times the seeds for everything you want to grow. So if you're trying to grow a tree, you don't just plant one seed and water it and hope it does really well. You really want to plant 20 seeds and do different things with all of them. So you're split testing at 20 different things at the same time. You're planting those seeds with different audiences. You're reaching out to 20 different influencers. Basically, everything you're doing 20 times. And then also, while you're doing that, you're also repeating the process at least 3 times. So you plant 20 seeds, and then maybe the first year you only get 3 trees. The second year you try again, you get 5 trees. The third year you figure out what you're doing, you get 10 trades. Now you've got a like 50% conversion rate. But you only get that by, like, the first time you do anything, it's not going to be very successful. You're probably going to fail. And that's good, because then you learn how to do better. If you're not failing, if you're accidentally perfect, you're accidentally successful the first time, that means you're probably going to fail the next time, because you haven't really figured out why you're successful or how to be successful. Anyway, so I really thought this book helped me out a lot. I recommend reading it. Thanks. Bye-bye.